Hello, welcome to the 43rd episode of my podcast, Open Conversations. I'm your host, pro artist, Young Bella Spedwell. Um, and today I will be speaking on just different, NBA basketball topics. Um, and just, let me just get right into it as usual. Um, so, first topic of the day is underrated slash undermarketed NBA players. So I'm gonna just list some guys that um, I'm fans of their game. I like their game. I think that they should get more recognition for their game, more marketing of their game. These are guys that I think have the ability of certain you know superstar quote unquote superstar talents and things of that nature. And I think um, they just don't get the marketing and exposure as some of these other guys. Some of these guys play for quote unquote smaller markets, if you will. So I think that's probably the primary reason why they don't get the recognition and stuff like that. That I think that they do deserve. So to start, go with De'Aaron Fox. I think De'Aaron Fox is a guy that is a superstar talent, can do anything on the court. Um, he's a speedster, probably the fastest guy in the NBA with the ball. Um, can shoot it, dunk when you finish. Um, just a good point guard. He can facilitate very well. Um, he has all the abilities of all the other point guards in the league that they put in the top five or superstars. Um, he has that. He has those abilities and some. And I think he's a real special talent. He's produced since he came into the league, showing that he's a really great player from the start. Like I said, I think it's just the fact that he's in Sacramento. Sacramento doesn't get a lot of nationally televised games and media, you know, marketing and stuff like that. So I think that's probably the main reason why he doesn't get um, the quote unquote respect or the recognition that he should get. Because, like I said, he's a superstar talent. He has the ability, he has the abilities of all these, guards that they say is, the top five and stuff like that. So De'Aaron Fox. Then I'm gonna go Cade Cunningham. I think Cade, um, playing for the Detroit Pistons, doesn't get a lot of nationally televised game. They haven't been, a playoff team or one of these, contending teams over the past 5 years. So his game hasn't been getting that recognition, that marketing, but he's been balling. He's a very um, dynamic player in my opinion. I think he's averaging around 20, a little over 20 points, um, 5+ rebounds, 5+ assists. I think he's hovering around 7 rebounds, 7 assists, or something like that. But really good player, man. Just doesn't get that uh, recognition and stuff like that. Um, he can do almost everything on the court. He's essentially like a 6'7" point guard. Can play the two. Um, he can score it, facilitate, rebound, got good size. Um, he really has the ability to um, do everything on the court. But I said just doesn't, him playing at a small, quote unquote, small market team that's a team that doesn't get that much nationally televised games. Um, people aren't too aware of him and his ability and what he can do and what he can provide. So, I think that's probably the main reason why a lot of he doesn't get the marketing and the recognition. But Detroit's been all right. They've been a lot better than they have been in recent years. This year, so hopefully he could make an All-Star game this year. I think he's deserving. He's been playing very well. So um, hopefully he can make that this year. Um, Next, I'm gonna go D'Angelo Russell. Um, Big fan of his game. Have been. Um, I think he's a guy who doesn't get. People be critical of his game. I think a lot of it has to do with the circumstance he's been in as he's been in the league. Right now he's playing. As the either third or fourth option with the Lakers, with LeBron, AD, and then it's pretty much between him and Austin Reeves as the third or fourth option, depending on the night. I personally think D'Lo is better than Austin Reeves, but circumstance. Austin Reeves is a good player, but I think D'Lo's better. Um, you've seen what D'Lo can do. I.e. the Brooklyn situation. He was averaging like 21, 7, 5, something like that. Um, when he's in a position where he can, you know, be, have, bigger role offensively. He can put up numbers. Um, Very skilled player. Um, very, very, very skilled player. Uh, just a real fan of his game. I think if he was, like he went to Orlando, Orlando would be, I think that could really give them an extra step. You know what I'm saying? If he were to go to like Orlando, a young team that's on the rise, because D'Lo's still fairly young. I think he's probably like 28, 28, 20, 27, 28 range, something like that. So he's still a young player. And, Orlando's a young team. I think he can go there. He has the experience. So it's not like he's just a, you know, totally, young guy, but he's, kind of like in that prime era of his career type of thing. And I think he could really be a boost for a team like the Magic. And, having a bigger role of responsibility on the team. It's harder for him to do that when you got AD and LeBron on the team. You know what I'm saying? Like that's taking up a lot of, you know, looks, shots and stuff like that. So his game can't really be shown like that as as the way that I think it could be. Because I've seen this guy play. He's a really good player. For guys who don't know, I think he gets kind of some slack a lot from media, whether it's just due to his personality or whatever. How media does. They just will try to attack you just off your personality and stuff like that. Stuff that has nothing to do with basketball, but it is what it is. But he's a guy that I think is is really good. It's just circumstance and situation that I think really is the thing when it comes to D'Lo. Then next, Trey Young. Trey Young's is a guy who's been great from the start since he entered the league. A 30-10 guy on I think a couple seasons, and Atlanta, not really a major marketed team, not a team that gets a lot of coverage, nationally televised games. Um, but he's been balling, man. I'm a big fan of Trey Young. This is kind of like this media thing where he's a fake Steph or he's unlikable or whatever the case may be. I think he's just a really strong competitor. There are similarities in his game when it pertains to him and Steph Curry, but I think there's I definitely think there's some differences in his game as well. Like he's very him and Steph are actually very different in ways in terms of their game. Um, but like nonetheless, I'm just a big fan of Trey Young. Being at the size that he's at and putting up the numbers and doing the things he does on the court is incredible, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? You got a 5'11", 5'10" probably in real life, real time, guy putting up these numbers, you know, super skilled, um, doing these things, and I think it's impressive. And to me, I think it's a matter of situation, him going to a situation that's gonna you know be formidable for him. I think you know when CP maybe retire probably within the next year or two. I think Trey should look to go to San Antonio. Him and Wimby can be an awesome, duo. Very dynamic. Both of those guys put up some pretty crazy numbers. I think that could be a crazy dynamic. Um, but yeah, just big fan of Trey's game. I think just under marketed and things of that nature. So yeah, Trey Young, and then lastly, I'm gonna go with Carl Towns. Um, again, he spent majority of his career in Minnesota. Not a major market team. They've had some slight success in the recent years. Um, and I think Cat gets like again media tries to portray him like he's soft or he's not a tough player or aggressive player. I bet it's been a big fan of Cat. He's a finesse big. He has that Euro style game to him. Um, he very skilled, big, can shoot very well. Athletic as well. He has that athleticism, and I'm just big fan of Cat, man. Big fan. Like I love his game. I think he's really good. I think he's an underrated big in the league, and it's this era. I wouldn't say this era, but just like guys who previously were in the league, always complain about this era and the style of play of the bigs, and this is like just not accepting the evolution of the game. You know what I'm saying? Like these bigs can play on the perimeter. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, they can play down low, but they can play on the perimeter as well. And it gets perceived like you're soft, for whatever foolish reasons, like because you can play on the perimeter and shoot the basketball. You know what I'm saying? At a high clip and be a big. Um, I think people gotta understand that's just the evolution of the game. You know what I'm saying? This is where the game's going. You got Nikola Jokic, who's essentially a point center. You know what I'm saying? So, um, like I said, big fan of Cat, and yeah, so that just rounds out my list of players that I think are a bit undermarketed, underrated by guys, and so switch over. I'm gonna get into just some city, just top five players in different cities that have come out in different cities. The DMV is my hometown area, so I'm gonna speak on who my personal opinion of the top five DMV NBA players of all time that I've seen. Now, a guy that um, isn't on this list, but again, I didn't grow up watching or seeing Adrian Dantley. I didn't see him play. I know he's an NBA Hall of Famer. I'm not trying to disrespect or whatever as people say or anything like that. But he's not on the list because I didn't uh, grow up watching him or see him play. So he's not on the list. He's not on this list. But nonetheless, get right into it. Starting with Kevin Durant, KD, um, greatest player in the DMV area of all time, hands down. Um, Flat out, just to me, probably the greatest scorer of all time. Just overall, just what he can do offensively on the court, like he's the greatest to me of all time. Um, the score in any which way, um, any way that you think that is possible, Kevin Durant can do it. On the perimeter, post up, get to the rim, uh, elite free throw shooter. Uh, you know, I'm just a big fan of his game. He has all the skills um, that can pay the bills on the court. So, go, first starting with KD, then I gotta go Carmelo Anthony. Uh, just another offensive juggernaut, a guy who could score any which way on the court. Really good with the post up game. Um, they plays that as they say that bully ball type of thing. Um, just a great overall score, one of the greater overall scores in this league. To me, probably a top five, definitely top 10 scorer of all time, in my opinion, in terms of the versatility of what he can do offensively on the court. I think is, you know, why I would say he's in that category for me. But Melo, uh, just a great player. Um, Big fan of Melo. Then I'm gonna go with Steve Francis. Steve Francis, the franchise, um, dynamic player. Uh, he could do it all. Off the dribble, he had to handle uh, the hops. He was, kind of like the first Ja Morant type of thing. Like in terms of his game is, very similar to Ja Morant's. Uh, he had a jumper, he could shoot it. Point guard who really didn't have any flaws in his game in his prime when he was playing. Really dynamic. So yeah, Steve Francis. Then I'm gonna go with Victor Oladipo, a guy I went to high school with. So I kind of, I seen him play um, at the lower ranks, and just been a super hard worker. He deserved to be, where he turned out to be. I think the NBA kind of has, um, if I had to say, maybe politicked him out or something. I don't know why he's not still in the league. Should still be in the league. I think he's a guy who could, be very productive on a team. You know what I'm saying? If you give him the quality opportunity, but um, you know, dynamic could got the athleticism, um, really great slasher, jumper, has a pretty good jump shot. That's something that he really worked on um, over the years, and he became a very quality shooter in his career. So uh, yeah, Victor, I have to put him up there fourth on my list, and then last I gotta go with Mike Beasley. Just another guy who's just a dynamic scorer, could score anywhere on the court. Um, there's no stopping him when it comes to offensively. He's a flat out bucket, and you know, I think with Beasley, if he got the proper opportunity for franchise. When he first got in the league, he was playing behind D Wade, and then LeBron and Bosh and them came, so he didn't really wasn't able to really have that opportunity to be that franchise player as he rightfully deserved, being he was the second pick in the NBA draft behind Derrick Rose. I think you know Beasley could have been an all-star guy. You know what I mean? An all-star guy, could have made some all-star games because, like I said, he had the offensive prowess to do so. Like if Beasley had that, that green light, you know, he could have been a 25 to 30 point player um, with multiple, 10 plus rebound type guy, a 25 and 10 guy in the league without question. You know what I'm saying? If he had that, the opportunity to do so. So that rounds out my list. Couple uh, honorable mention guys I wanted to mention. Uh, Josh Selby, for guys who may or may not know, high school. I mean, he turned out to be the number one player. I remember he went to DeMatha Catholic, which was my high school that I went to. Um, I remember, was it his junior year? Um, I think he was ranked like top 30 or something like that. And he was ranked top 30. And, I remember, we would do the pickup runs and stuff like that. And I just remember this guy just dominating everybody on the court. Just and won threes from like way beyond the 3 point line, dunking on people, facilitating, getting assists, everything. He was doing it all. Um, and I was like, this guy gotta be the best player in the country because I don't know. I mean, the way what he's doing, I don't see anybody who can mess with this dude. And lo and behold, like by the next year, he was rivals number one player like in the country. And like I vividly remember this. Like I remember watching this guy during the runs dominating everybody. Like I mean, utter domination. Like it was. This was everybody. This where everybody else was at. He was just like right here, like just way beyond everybody. You know what I'm saying? But I think his situation, why he didn't translate it in the NBA or whatever. Um, I don't really know too much of but I can just speak on his game. Brother could hoop, brother could hoop his butt off. Like those who know, Josh Selby was a dog. Um, he was a problem, man. That brother could freaking score the hell out of the basketball. So yeah, Josh Selby. Then I gotta go Ty Lawson. Another dynamic guy, point guard. Um, Carolina, national championship, came to the league. Denver Nuggets. Um, another guy who was, undersized but dynamic, played bigger than his size. He was Ty Lawson is like 5'9", 5'10", something like that. Um, but play like I said, he played bigger than his size, man. If he was 6'2", 6'3", he would have been a perennial all-star for sure. Um, he could have made some all-star games while he was, in the league. He was just playing out west. There was a lot of, great guards at that time. But Ty Lawson, and then lastly, for my honorable mentions, I'd say Rudy Gay, um, a guy who, played well at the collegiate level at UConn, came in the league, had multiple 20-point per game seasons, um, you know, could do it, very versatile forward in the league, had a long career, um, you know, had some really big games in his career, hit some big shots as well. Um, one I believe he did against Miami against like over LeBron or something like that, like a last second jump. So yeah, so that closes it out for me. My top 5 DMV players of all time. My top 5 New York NBA players of all time. So I'm gonna have to start out with Kemba Walker. You know, he's a just a dynamic guard. Um, had to me the greatest NCAA run of all time. What he was doing in the year he won the national championship was just unprecedented. Like that run was crazy. I remember vividly what he was doing, just dominating every game. Like him and Shabazz were just both at it, just going crazy that whole tournament. But primarily Kemba being the primary, leader of that team. He was just going nuts. So Kemba. Next, I'm gonna go Stephon Marbury, Starbury. You know, a big guard who could do it all on the floor. Um, he was kind of like a guy who was ahead of his time in the way he played because he was a big guard who could score, but he could assist too. He could facilitate. And, I think a lot of people at that time and era kind of confused him. Like they kind of made it like he was too much of a scorer. He really wasn't like a point guard, but he could facilitate. So he was kind of, like I said, ahead of his time in the way he played. Because that's kind of how the modern day point guard is. You know what I'm saying? And in a lot of ways, they're even bigger. You know what I'm saying? Um, but just a dynamic guy, could do anything on the floor. Offensively, dunk on you, shoot, get to the rim, mid range, all of that. You know what I'm saying? So Stephon Marbury, then I gotta go Sebastian Telfair. You know, if those who know, man, I remember growing up through the fire. That was a super inspirational, you know, um, documentary of Sebastian Telfair. Very inspirational for me. Um, he was a dog, like super dog in high school, like going crazy at Lincoln. You know, Sebastian was a dog, and he had a pretty solid NBA career. Played, I want to say 10+ years or something like that. Had some good stints with teams. I think I don't know whether it was opportunity or his game didn't quite translate. He could have been, you know, why he wasn't like a 20 and 10 guy. Because I said in high school, he was putting up crazy numbers and he was just balling. But nonetheless, Bass Telfair, really good player. Then Kenny Anderson, a lefty, real skilled, real finesse with the rock. Had the handle. Um, athletic, real sneaky athletic, could facilitate. Kenny Anderson was a really good player. And then lastly, Rayford Alston, another guy that, you know, very, very skilled, very, and one type handle, skip to Malu, um, and he could hoop. You know what I'm saying? He had that street ball, but he could do the organized NBA type thing, as well. For those, hoopers who, for real hoopers, they know. You know what I'm saying? There's definitely there's different dynamics to the game as it pertains to, pick up ball and, the organized game. You know what I'm saying? And, Rayford probably could have, done bigger numbers and stuff like that had he had the opportunity to really showcase, all of the, his bag, you know what I'm saying? And had that green light, that, type of thing. So, that closes out my top 5 list for New York players. My top 5 Chicago NBA players of all time. Now, Chicago is like a really, really, really great city when it comes. It's a lot of legends out in Chicago. But starting out, D Rose, Derrick Rose, man, watch him since Simeon in high school. His AAU days when he was playing with Mean Streets with Eric Gordon. I was watching him since then, and I was like, yo, this guy's dynamic. You know what I'm saying? Like this dude's different. Like and this was that time with Deep Derrick Rose, OJ Mayo, Mike Beasley, um, James Harden. They was all in that class. So I think with D Rose, he was a guy that um, just dynamic, athleticism, just off the charts, um, handle, the explosiveness was just crazy. Um, you know, he improved his jumper, over throughout his career. Just unfortunate with the injuries that you know slowed he became not as dynamic in terms of athleticism and stuff like that due to the injuries. But you gotta, to me, um, applaud his resiliency, his ability to continue to rehab and get back up. It was like 3 years straight he had like season-ending injuries. 3 years, like I want to say like 3 years straight. 3 years straight he had season-ending injuries, and he was able to bounce back each and every time, and still have a formidable career afterwards. But obviously, Chicago D Rose was different. Anybody who in the league at that time, and there was speak on D Rose, it was like he was unguardable, couldn't mess with him. You know, Even like right now, like if D Rose would have managed to stay healthy throughout his career, I don't think he would have turned out to be that like the best point guard of this generation. Period. I really believe so. Um, Maybe Steph might have something to say about that, but I don't think Steph could mess with him. Like how dynamic of a player D Rose was in his prime was just next level. Like, cause he had the athleticism, he had the strength, he had the he could get to the bucket, he could mid range was on point. You know, the jumper was improving, the 3-point ball was improving. So it was nothing you could do with him at all. You couldn't do nothing with D Rose in his prime. So um, just D Rose, you know, he's in there. Then Isaiah Thomas, the Detroit legend, but he's native from Chicago. You already know, 2-time NBA champ, pretty much the leader of those teams. Um, I think 10 plus All Stars. He was the greatest. He was the best point guard of his time, between him and Magic. You know what I'm saying? Um, just super skilled, had to handle, um, and had that toughness. You know what I'm saying? I remember I used to watch the NBA playbacks, and it would show him when he I think he got injured with his leg, and he still came out, played, and balled on guys. Like, he was still balling. So Isaiah Thomas and AD Anthony Davis, um, you know, did his thing in Kentucky. You know, at first I wasn't too like, is he really that this dynamic guy that they say he is? And he sure did turn out to be that. Um, Dynamic scorer, can score all over the floor. Um, his game is it's like KD, but more of a post player in a sense, like, 'cause he could shoot the three, he could, mid range, he has the post up game, um, and then defensively, then what really makes AD such a dynamic guy is his defensive prowessness, like, the blocks, the rim protection that he provides. Um, AD's just a super dynamic guy. Then I gotta go D Wade, Dwayne Wade, um, you know, Mr. Miami, um, you know, was a 3-time NBA champ, uh, 10 plus All Stars, um, you know, in his prime, couldn't mess with him. The way could get to the rim at will, split double teams, split picks. Nobody could split picks better than him. Maybe Manu, what I'm saying? Manu Ginobili has something to say about that, but um, you know, just he could split those double teams with ease. Um, had the mid range work, facilitate. Um, had that toughness, had that will to win. Like, he was a winner. D Wade is a winner, true winner, and I always admired his game and just him as a person as well. And then lastly, Kevin Garnett, um, went straight from high school, probably to date the greatest Timberwolf of all time. He won an MVP over there. Ended up coming to Boston, winning an NBA championship. Um, kind of one of the first bigs that could put it on the floor. You know what I'm saying? He could handle, put it on the floor, you know, um, get his own shot, facilitate, a bit. And then, of course, he had the post up game. Post game was A1, could rebound, defend, all of that. And I just love KG's energy, his personality, his that, his quote unquote dog, just the way he talks. I'm a big fan of his podcast, Ticket and Truth, where they talk like, guys do at the park. And I can relate to that, because that's, I grew up mainly that playing at the park pickup. You know what I'm saying? I played, um, I did some organized ball. You know what I'm saying? I should have, played more consistent, especially with the AAU and stuff. But I primarily played at the park, at the at the recs and pickups, and so I relate to that game a little bit more than the quote unquote organized game. Even though there's some similarities and things of that nature, but just how guys talk and stuff like that. Like I really relate to how KG, sees the game and his perspective. So yeah, that rounds out my top five. Then I got some honorable mentions. Tim Hardaway, you know, Hall of Famer. Uh, you know, that cross up, that between cross, a marquee, a staple move of his. You know, that was just deadly. Don't think there's anybody who could do it better. Then I got to go Pat Bev, great defender, guy with great energy. You know, um, he didn't. Pat Bev. He was like a 30 point, like a dynamic scorer, and then in high school, and then kind of adjusted his game when he got to the pros. Um, but yeah, Pat Bev is nice, man. Um, Tony Allen, another guy who turned out to be a great defender in the league, notoriously known as the hardest defender to be guarded by Kobe Bryant, the great Kobe Bryant. Rest in peace to Kobe. Um, so yeah, that rounds out my honorable mention list. My top five LA NBA players of all time. So starting with Russell Westbrook, one of my favorite players of all time. Super dynamic, plays with a toughness that I really can relate and connect with. Um, Relentless on the court, coming at you nonstop. Plays with a super passion of the game that I really respect and love about him. Um, he despite what the media says, you hear the players just like, yo, he's such a great teammate. He's a really great guy, and you know, I like his swag. Um, just big fan of Russell Westbrook. So yeah, Russ. Then you gotta go James Harden. Um, just a dynamic guy. James Harden um, is probably the first guy in the league, and then we've seen that is an elite level shooting guard as well as an elite level point guard. He can be an elite level point guard as well. He can do both at an elite level, not just good. Like I'm an elite shooting guard. I could play the point. I'm good at that. I'm talking about he's elite, like amongst the top tier in both positions. Um, can do it all, scoring, and he's just a nightmare to guard. You know what I'm saying? So James, then I gotta go Paul Pierce, the truth. Um, just a score. Anyway, I like Paul Pierce is one of those guys where I know in his mind he just think he can score on anybody. He gonna figure some kind of way to score on you. Somehow he gonna do it, whether you think it's pretty or not, whether you think it looks good or not. Paul Pierce gonna figure a way to score on you. Um, 10 plus All Stars, I believe. Um, Finals MVP, um, Hall of Famer. You know what I'm saying? Gary Payton. Next up, I'll say Gary Payton, the glove. Um, 9-time Defensive Player of the Year, NBA champion, multiple All Stars, can play great on both ends. Probably, top five um, two way type player, whether offensively and defensively type of thing. Then lastly, I'm gonna have to say Jason Kidd, um, one of the greatest point guards, of all time, passers of all time. To me, probably top three passer of all time, if not the greatest, you could say. Um, just a leader, a great leader on the court. You know, Hall of Famer, NBA champion, um, and current head coach of Dallas Mavericks. So yeah, that rounds out my list. And then I got some honorable mentions. Nick Young is a guy that I'm a big fan of. Swaggy P could score the hell out of the basketball. I think he's a guy, if he had the opportunity type of thing, he could have been, made some all-star games throughout his career. Ended up winning. He became an NBA champion, so shout out to him. Then LaMelo Ball, that's my boy. That's my guy. That's my guy right there. LaMelo Ball, uh, just dynamic all throughout. Just a dynamic player, offensively. Facilitating, scoring in any which way. So LaMelo Ball. Then I gotta go DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan, another LA guy. Um, you know, master of the mid range, super athletic, multiple All Stars. Just can score any which way. Um, he's really one of my favorite guys because he really has that 2000s type, 2000s 90s type game to him. And then lastly, I go Brandon Jennings. Um, Complete dog in high school, man. For guys who he was a complete dog in high school, man. His mixtape is legendary. Um, Came in the league rookie year 55. You know what I'm saying? And was just super dynamic, super skilled. Um, it's a guy who, if the right opportunity had presented itself, could have made some all-star games, in my opinion. Uh, so yeah, Brandon Jennings. My top 5 international players of all time. So start out with Luka Doncic, Luka Magic, um, super dynamic, 6'8" point guard, like 30 a night, give you about 10 assists, maybe, 8, 9, if not 10 rebounds a night. Um, Plays at his own pace that I love. He doesn't play. He's very good at change of pace, but primarily he plays at his pace at a slow pace, um, and nobody can speed him up. Nobody can, you know, make him, you know, move at the pace that they want him to move. He plays at his own pace. He controls the tempo of the game. Can go down potentially. Um, he as the greatest international player, if not top 3 of all time, in my personal opinion. Then I'm gonna go Dirk Nowitzki, you know, NBA champ, 10 plus All Stars. Um, had master that leg, that 1 foot jumper. Um, he could shoot all types of unorthodox jumpers and make it. Um, Big fan of Dirk's game. Then I'm gonna go Shea Gilgeous. Shea, I've said it a number of times. That's another guy. That's one of my favorite players of the current day. Um, Unguardable. Like I don't really know what you can do with Shea that, you know, on the defensively. You just gotta hope he misses the shot because he has too many ways to score basketball. Um, Master of, he could shoot the three. He could get to the rim, finish, dunk on you, and super elite with that mid range. He does that, dribble, dribble, dribble. Then he does that slight shoulder push off to get the space, and then he pulls up. So I think that's he's just unguardable. Like I said, has to handle to get guys involved. So yeah, Shea, then Nikola Jokic. If you're a fan of the game of basketball, you're a basketball purist, as I would say. You're a big fan of Nikola Jokic. If you're just a person who watches the NBA for the sake of entertainment and just leisurely time type thing, may not be too much of a fan of him. But I'm a big fan of Nikola Jokic. Currently, he's averaging 30, 10, and 10. His game keeps improving, getting better. He does what he does. The thing about him is he does it efficiently, at a very, very efficient percentage. What he does, he's super efficient. Um, Gets guys easy shots. I mean, he to me, he's currently the best player in the NBA. So yeah, Nikola Jokic, uh, three is it 3-time MVP and NBA champion. So yeah, Nikola Jokic. Then I gotta go. Lastly, Giannis Antetokounmpo, NBA champion, MVP. Just a dynamic guy. He's coming at you. He's like a bigger Russell Westbrook. He's coming at you full speed, nonstop. At about what 6'10", 6'11", or something like that. If not even 7 foot or something like that. Has the athleticism, the toughness. Can do the post up. He can get to the rim. Um, he's a decent shooter. He's a pretty decent shooter. He gets some slack. People saying he's not that good of a shooter. He's a pretty good, decent shooter. So yeah, that rounds out my list. Then I got some honorable mentions. Uh, Joel Embiid, MVP, um, missed a 73-point game. Currently it's kind of like I don't know, kind of cloudy with him with his situation with the Sixers. I don't know exactly what's going on right now, but you know, when he's on that floor, he's unguardable. There's nothing you can do with Joel Embiid because he can shoot the three. He could break you down the dribble. Hit pull up mid range. He got the post moves. He can actually bring the ball up the court, go coast to coast, finish. Then he's like 7'2", and he's huge. So it's easy. He's just unstoppable. He's a defensive presence. He's great at on the defensive end. He can facilitate. He can assist. So Joel Embiid is just you know super dynamic. I hope the situation with him in Philadelphia, they figure something out. Then I gotta go Manu Ginobili. You know, Mister just split the double team and dunk on you. Um, Greatest six man of all time, uh, MVP, NBA Finals MVP. Um, if he was on another team, probably would have made more All Star games. But for the sake of that, dynasty, San Antonio, he played off the bench. So Ginobili, then lastly Tony Parker, another guy who's a part of that Spurs dynasty, um, Hall of Famer. Um, if I don't know if he's already in or if he's still waiting, but he's gonna be in the Hall of Fame if he's already not. But you know, Master that floater game was his go-to. That floater game was A1. Um, Great at the mid-range as well. He was great at the mid-range. He became a better three-point shooter as his career, progressed and things of that nature. Good, really great point guard throughout his career. So yeah. So LaMelo Ball hot streak, man. So it's kind of he's still on the hot streak. You know what I'm saying? But he had the recently where he had the 50 ball game, the 50 and 10 game, the 44-point game, and he's currently averaging 31.1 points per game. And the between this year and prior years is he's been healthy, and I hope he can maintain his health throughout the season. But this boy been going nuts. You know what I'm saying? The games aren't being nationally covered. You know, because Charlotte's a quote unquote smaller market team, and they're not necessarily winning. Um, they're not they don't have a winning percentage currently. Um, so I think that plays a part. But you know, get league pass, man. This boy Melo Ball's been going nuts. Just doing all and one moves in NBA games, pulling it off with ease. I mean, 1 foot three pointers way beyond the 3 point line. Um, dunking on you, floaters, and he's pulling out every bag possible, and he's pulling it off. It's great to see him play. Um, he's been a top 5 player this year, in my opinion. Definitely top 10, but I'm gonna put him as a top 5 guy um, in the season this year thus far. So yeah, man, keep it up, LaMelo. Um, keep him rooting for you, and yeah, man, keep balling. Big baller brand. Shout out to Lonzo. He's recently back on the court. He's healthy. You know what I'm saying? And I've always been a big fan of the big baller brand and LeVar Ball. Anybody who knows, who's watched my content, I've always been a big fan of them. And I'm rooting for y'all, man. Keep balling, all of y'all, D'Angelo. But yeah, LaMelo, keep balling, bro. NBA ratings. So there's kind of been this narrative of like the NBA game not having as much viewership. This narrative, I don't know how factual this is. It's just a narrative, but I think it's been great. I have an opposing view. The game's been great. I've been glued to the games, been seeing the games. The skill level has continued to improve. The evolution of the game has continued to evolve. um, these young guys can ball, man. I think, again, I spoke on this earlier, just about, with Cat, a lot of guys think because, these guys are shooting the ball so much, but not understanding they're shooting the ball at a very high clip. Like these guys can shoot the hell out of the basketball and they can score the hell out of the basketball. These guys you know, in the league prior to now, these guys couldn't score like these dudes. They couldn't. And I've been watching the game my whole life, and I'm telling you, man, these dudes can score the hell out of basketball. That's why people think the defense is so bad, it's not as good or this, that, and the third. It's like no, these boys can flat out score the hell out of basketball, and there's nothing you can do about it. Guys are playing defense. It's just these dudes are hitting tough shots. They're hitting tough ass shots. Like, have you seen LaMelo Ball? Have you seen Cam Thomas? Have you seen Steph Curry? These dudes hitting tough shots, and there's nothing you can do about it. To where you think these guys aren't playing defense? Nah, they playing defense. It's just unguardable. You can't do nothing about it. And I think that's what is the confusion. You know what I'm saying? The game is continued to evolve and continue to get better and better. You know what I'm saying? And I think people think it's just kind of like, oh, it's lackadaisical. No, these guys is hooping. It's just the scoring prowessness of the guys in the league has just evolved. Like it's nothing you can do, And so, um, the game's great. The players are great. Um, these guys are elite, man. these guys in this league are elite. Um, and you know, I'm a big fan. I'm gonna continue watching the NBA. You know, basketball is my favorite sport. It's my passion. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, nonetheless, these guys can ball, man. Don't think because you know, quote unquote, it was more aggressive and defensive, and then they want to talk about the defense, bro. The rules have changed. The way that defenses and stuff they guard people have changed, and it's not the player's fault. It's just the evolution of the game. And I think the main thing that people have problems is evolution. You know what I'm saying? It's like hip hop. Oh, we don't like today's hip hop. We don't like it, but this is the same thing guys in the '80s that was rhyming was saying about the current dudes who was rhyming in the '90s when Nas and the J's and Biggies was coming up. You know, they was like, oh, this isn't hip hop. And then now, the 2000 come. Now the guys in the '90s saying these guys in 2000s can't. This is not hip hop. And then now the 2010s came. Now guys in the 2000s saying that this is not hip hop. And then now it's the 20s, and now they're saying that. You know what I'm saying? It's just a cycle, and the same principle applies when it comes to the NBA. It's just understanding the game is just evolving and it's changing. It's not exactly how it was when you was in the league or when you was rhyming and stuff like that. And so it's just the adjustment. You know what I'm saying? It's evolved, man. So I think you know whether it's the truth, with the viewership or not, I don't know. But what I know from watching these guys play the game, no, these guys are better. This is an evolved game. So that's just my piece. I just wanted to say that. So that's the end of this episode, man. Thankful that you guys watching. Um, Fortunately, there was some, having the alarm going off in the room that was kind of going off throughout um, the episode. My apologies for that. Hopefully, I'm gonna take care of that. So the next episode we don't have that these same issue. So yeah, man. Until next time, y'all have a good one.